The morning sun cast long shadows across the red dust of Kepler 442b as Dr. Minho Park knelt beside what looked like an ordinary rock. His gloved hands carefully brushed away millions of years of sediment. The alien world was quiet except for the hum of excavation equipment and the distant chatter of his research team. Minho had been digging on this planet for 3 months now. The Galactic Archaeological Consortium had sent him here because satellite scans showed unusual mineral formations deep beneath the surface. What they found was far more interesting than minerals. They found ruins, ancient ruins that seemed to be older than any known civilization in this part of the galaxy. "Dr. Park, you need to see this," called Gina Lee from across the dig site. She was hunched over her portable analysis station, her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail. Her voice carried that excited tone that every archaeologist learned to recognize. It meant something big. Minho stood up and walked over to where Gina was working. Around the dig site, other team members continued their careful excavation. There were humans and aliens working side by side. The tall, blue-skinned Zephyrians moved with their characteristic grace, while the shorter, stocky Corathans used their 4 arms to handle multiple tools at once. Everyone worked in the respectful silence of scientists who knew they might be uncovering history. "What do you have?" Minho asked, looking over Gina's shoulder at the glowing display screen. Gina pointed to a series of genetic markers scrolling across her scanner. "I've been analyzing the organic residue from those stone tools we found yesterday. The DNA signatures are, well, they're impossible." Minho frowned. "Impossible how?" "They're human, completely, unmistakably human. But according to our dating methods, these tools are 4.8 million years old." Gina's voice was steady, but Minho could hear the underlying excitement. "That predates human evolution by millions of years. It predates human space travel by even more." The significance hit Minho like a physical blow. Humans were considered one of the youngest species in the galaxy to achieve interstellar travel. Their first contact with alien civilizations had happened only 150 years ago. Before that, humans had been isolated on Earth, slowly developing technology, while ancient alien civilizations had been trading across the stars for millions of years. "Are you certain about the dating?" Minho asked. "I've run it 6 times. Different samples, different methods. The results are consistent." Gina turned to face him fully. "Minho, if this is accurate, it means humans were here before the Great Extinction event." The Great Extinction was galactic legend. According to alien historical records, some catastrophic event had swept through this region of space 4.8 million years ago. Entire civilizations had vanished overnight. Planets that had once hosted thriving cities became barren wastelands. The cause was unknown, but the effects were clear in the archaeological record of dozens of worlds. "That's not possible," Minho said. But even as he spoke the words, he was thinking about the strange tools they had been finding. They were crude but effective. Stone knives, simple spears, basic scrapers, the kind of tools that primitive humans might make, but they were scattered around what looked like the remains of a settlement. A shadow fell across them as Veltar, their Zephyrian colleague, approached. His translator device rendered his musical language into standard galactic common. "What are you discussing so intensely? Your emotional states are quite elevated." Zephyrians were natural empaths. They could sense the emotional condition of other beings. Veltar had been working with human teams long enough to know when they were excited about a discovery. "We may have found evidence of human presence on this world millions of years before humans were supposed to have left their home planet," Minho explained. Veltar's large, dark eyes widened. This was the Zephyrian equivalent of dropping one's jaw in shock. "That cannot be accurate. Human civilization is recent. Your species achieved space travel only recently in galactic terms." "That's what we thought too," Gina said. She gestured to her analysis equipment. "But the evidence is clear. Human genetic material, human tool construction techniques, human settlement patterns, all dated to 4.8 million years ago. Over the next several hours, the team worked with increased intensity. They carefully documented every find, took multiple samples, and ran every test they could think of. The results remained consistent. Humans had been on this world millions of years ago. As the day progressed, they made more discoveries. Stone circles that looked like fire pits. Bone fragments that had been clearly worked by intelligent hands. Most importantly, they found what looked like food preparation areas. Stone slabs with grinding marks. Piles of crushed plant matter. Evidence of cooking fires. "Look at this," called Hyun Kim, the team's survival specialist. He had been brought in originally to help the team adapt to the harsh conditions of Kepler 442b, but his expertise in primitive living techniques made him valuable for understanding ancient sites. Hyun was crouched beside a large stone that had been hollowed out into a bowl shape. Around it were scattered the remains of various organic materials. "This looks like a food processing station. See these grinding marks? Someone was processing plant matter here. But look at what they were processing." He held up samples of the ancient plant remains. "These are from plants that most species would consider inedible. Some of them are actually toxic to most galactic species. But someone was not just eating them, they were systematically processing them." Minho felt a chill that had nothing to do with the planet's thin atmosphere. "You're saying early humans were eating things that would poison other species? Not just eating them? Thriving on them?" Hyun's voice was grim. "This isn't just evidence of survival, this is evidence of adaptation to extreme conditions. Look at the variety of materials here. Whoever lived at this site was eating everything organic they could find." As the alien team members gathered around to examine Hyun's findings, Minho noticed something he had never seen before in their alien colleagues. It was subtle, but it was there in their body language, in the way they held themselves, in the careful distance they maintained from the human team members. It was fear. The sun was setting over the dig site when Veltar finally spoke what everyone was thinking. "If humans were here during the Great Extinction, and if they survived it by eating things that would kill other species, then humans are not what we thought they were." Minho looked around at his team, human and alien alike, all staring at the ancient evidence of human presence. "What are we, then?" Veltar's translator was quiet for a long moment before rendering his response. "Survivors. The ultimate survivors." That night, as the team sat around their camp analyzing their findings, none of them could shake the feeling that they had discovered something that would change everything. The question was no longer whether humans had been here 4.8 million years ago. The question was how they had survived when entire advanced civilizations had not, and what that meant for the future of the galaxy. Research Station Omega-7 floated in the silent darkness of space, its lights twinkling like artificial stars. Inside the main laboratory, Dr. Minho Park stood before a wall of holographic displays showing genetic sequences, molecular structures, and biological data that should not exist. 3 days had passed since the team returned from Kepler 442b. 3 days of running tests, checking results, and trying to understand what they had discovered. The evidence remained unchanged. Humans had somehow existed 4.8 million years ago, and they had survived something that destroyed entire civilizations. "The metabolic patterns are unlike anything in our databases," Gina Lee said, her fingers dancing across the control panel. New data streams flowed across the displays in real time. These early humans had a completely different digestive system than modern humans, more efficient, more adaptable. Hyun Kim leaned back in his chair, studying the biological readouts. As the team's survival specialist, he understood better than anyone what it meant to live on the edge of starvation. It's not just different. It's impossible. Look at these enzyme markers. He pointed to a cluster of molecular diagrams. These compounds would allow someone to break down cellulose, process toxins, and extract nutrients from organic matter that would kill most species. We're talking about a digestive system that could handle almost anything organic. Sola Choi looked up from her own workstation across the lab. The cultural anthropologist had been examining the cave paintings and settlement patterns they had documented. "I think I know why they needed that kind of digestive system." She activated her display, showing three-dimensional reconstructions of the ancient settlement. "Look at the evidence patterns. These weren't normal times. The geological data shows massive environmental changes, climate shifts, resource scarcity, ecosystem collapse. The holographic reconstruction showed a world in chaos. Volcanic activity, atmospheric changes, dying vegetation. It painted a picture of a planet where survival meant eating whatever could be found." "But here's what's really interesting," Sola continued. "I've been comparing the settlement patterns from Kepler 442b with similar sites from other worlds that we know experienced the Great Extinction." New displays lit up showing star maps with marked locations. Red dots indicated worlds where the Great Extinction had left clear archaeological evidence. Blue dots showed worlds where primitive human settlements had been discovered over the years but never properly dated. "The pattern is consistent across 17 different worlds," Sola said. "Every world that shows evidence of the Great Extinction also shows evidence of primitive human habitation. And in every case, the humans survived while the advanced civilizations did not." Veltar had been silent throughout the discussion, but now the Zephyrian researcher stepped forward. His usually calm demeanor showed signs of distress that his translator couldn't hide. "You are suggesting that primitive humans survived a galactic catastrophe that destroyed spacefaring civilizations?" "That's exactly what I'm suggesting," Sola replied. "And I think I know how." She activated another display showing nutritional analysis data. "Modern humans still carry genetic markers for this crisis metabolism. It's dormant, but it's there. During extreme stress or starvation, human bodies can activate emergency processes that other species don't have." Hyun nodded slowly. "I've seen it in survival situations. Humans can survive on things that would kill other species. We always thought it was just good fortune or superior training. But this suggests it's actually genetic." "More than genetic," Gina added. "It's evolutionary. These early humans didn't just adapt to harsh conditions, they specialized in thriving during catastrophic events." The implications hit the room like a physical force. Minho felt the weight of understanding settle on his shoulders. "We're not just talking about survival. We're talking about humans being specifically evolved for catastrophic events." "Think about it," Sola said, her voice gaining excitement. "Every major human cultural myth includes stories of great disasters, floods, fires, plagues, extinctions, and in every story, humans survive by working together and making do with whatever they can find." She pulled up more data from the cave paintings. "Look at these images. They show groups of humans sharing resources, processing food together, caring for the weak. This isn't just individual survival. This is cooperative survival on a massive scale." Veltar's translator remained silent for a long moment before rendering his response. "In Zephyrian culture, we have legends of the Hunger Times, the period when the stars went dark and civilization ended. We always assumed these were metaphorical stories." "What do the legends say?" Minho asked. "They speak of creatures that could eat the dead worlds and find life where none existed. Creatures that multiplied during the worst times while others died. We called them the persistence plague." The room fell silent. The weight of realization was almost tangible. "You're saying your people have legends about humans," Gina said quietly. "Not just Zephyrians," Veltar replied. "Most elder species have similar stories. We thought they were cautionary tales about greed and excess. But if your discoveries are accurate, they may be historical records." Hyun stood up and walked to the main display. "Let me show you something that might explain how this worked." He pulled up metabolic comparison charts between humans and other galactic species. Most species require specific nutrients in specific ratios. Their digestive systems are efficient but specialized. Humans are different. Human digestive systems are inefficient by galactic standards, but they're incredibly flexible. He highlighted the differences in the data. Where other species would starve because they can't process certain compounds, humans can adapt. Where other species would be poisoned by toxins, humans can develop tolerance. Where other species need diverse food sources, humans can survive on monotonous diets for extended periods. But the real advantage, Sola added, is social cooperation. The cave paintings show something remarkable. These early humans weren't just surviving individually, they were sharing knowledge about what could be eaten, how to process dangerous foods, how to find nutrition in apparently barren environments. She displayed images from multiple sites. Every human settlement shows evidence of communal food preparation. They were teaching each other how to survive. When one group learned that a certain toxic plant could be made safe through processing, they shared that knowledge. While advanced civilizations collapsed because their complex systems failed, Minho said, understanding flooding through him, humans survived because they could eat anything and they taught each other how to do it. It gets better, Gina said. The genetic analysis shows that these survival traits were actively selected for over millions of years. Humans didn't just accidentally survive the Great Extinction, they evolved specifically to survive it. Veltar was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his translator conveyed something that sounded almost like reverence. In our legends, we feared the Persistence Plague because they thrived when everything else died. But perhaps we should have honored them instead. Why? Minho asked. Because they were the only ones who survived to rebuild. Without them, there would be no civilization at all. As the team contemplated this revelation, Minho realized they had answered one question, but raised a dozen others. Humans weren't just an upstart species that had recently achieved space travel. They were the ultimate survivors, shaped by galactic catastrophe into something unprecedented. The question now was what this meant for humanity's place in the modern galaxy. The biological research lab on New Seoul Station hummed with activity as Dr. Daeho Yoon reviewed the security protocols one final time. The military scientist had arrived 3 days ago with authorization from the highest levels of human government. What the archaeological team had discovered was too important to leave to theory alone. They needed proof. "Are you certain about this?" Daeho asked Bora Nam, who sat calmly in the testing chair. The former military survival instructor had volunteered for the experiments despite knowing the risks. Her dark eyes showed no fear, only the steady determination that had kept her alive during 20 years of military service in hostile environments. "I've eaten worse things during survival training," Bora replied with a slight smile. "At least here you'll be monitoring my vital signs." Around the lab, various monitoring devices tracked every aspect of Bora's biological functions: heart rate, brain activity, digestive processes, blood chemistry, cellular metabolism. If the theories about human crisis metabolism were correct, these machines would record the proof. Gina Lee checked the prepared samples one final time. Each container held organic matter that would be toxic or indigestible to most galactic species, processed plant toxins that Korathan digestive systems couldn't handle, fermented materials that would poison Zephyrian metabolisms, fibrous matter that no known species could break down for nutrition. "We'll start with the mild samples," Gina explained to the watching team. "These are plants that cause digestive distress in most species, but shouldn't be dangerous to humans if the theories are correct." Veltar observed from behind a protective barrier, his translator conveying his nervousness to the room. "In Zephyrian physiology, even the first sample would cause severe toxicity. Are you certain human biology is different enough to prevent harm?" "That's what we're here to find out," Daeho replied. He activated the recording systems. Beginning test sequence 1. Subject is consuming processed bitter root extract. Bora took the first sample without hesitation. The monitoring equipment immediately began tracking changes in her digestive system. Within minutes, the displays showed something remarkable. Instead of rejecting the toxic compounds, Bora's system began processing them efficiently. "Look at these enzyme levels," Gina said, pointing to the biochemical readings. "Her liver is producing compounds that neutralize the toxins and convert them into usable nutrients. This shouldn't be possible." "But it's happening," Deho observed. "Her body is actually extracting nutrition from material that would hospitalize most species." Over the next hour, they continued with progressively more challenging samples. Fermented plant matter that smelled horrible but provided complex nutrients. Fibrous roots that required extensive processing to break down. Materials that other species would never consider food. Bora's body adapted to each challenge. Her digestive system activated dormant pathways that processed dangerous compounds into safe nutrients. Her metabolism shifted to extract maximum energy from minimal resources. Most remarkably, she showed no signs of distress or illness. "This is incredible," said Taekwon, the philosopher-scientist who had joined the observation team. "She's not just surviving these toxins, she's thriving on them." "It gets more interesting," Gina added, reviewing the metabolic data. "Her body is storing information about each toxin it processes. If she encountered these compounds again, her system would handle them even more efficiently." Deho nodded grimly. "That's adaptive evolution in real time. Her body is learning to handle new survival challenges and remembering the solutions." "Now try this," said Hyun Kim, presenting a sample that made even the humans in the room step back. The smell was overwhelming, and the appearance suggested advanced decay. "This is organic matter that's been breaking down for weeks. Most species would consider it completely inedible." Bora examined the sample carefully. "In survival training, we called this last resort rations. When everything else is gone, you eat what's available or you die." She consumed the sample while the monitoring equipment tracked every biological response. The results were extraordinary. Not only did her system process the decaying matter safely, but it extracted significant nutritional value from it. "Her digestive system is breaking down compounds that most species can't even touch," Gina reported. "She's getting proteins, fats, and complex nutrients from material that would be considered waste by galactic standards." Veltar's translator was quiet for several moments before conveying his response. "This explains the legends. During the Hunger Times, our ancestors reported seeing creatures that could eat the dead worlds and find sustenance where none existed." "We weren't eating dead worlds," Bora said calmly. "We were eating everything on them that could provide nutrition. The difference is that we could find nutrition where others couldn't." As the testing continued, patterns emerged that surprised even the human researchers. Bora's crisis metabolism didn't just handle individual toxins or challenging foods. It adapted to process combinations of materials that would create deadly interactions in other species. "Watch this," Deho said, preparing a mixture of several different toxic plants. Individually, each of these compounds is manageable for human physiology, but combined, they should create synergistic effects that overwhelm any biological system. "Should I be worried?" Bora asked. "Only if millions of years of human evolution were wrong," Gina replied. Bora consumed the mixture while the monitoring systems tracked the complex biochemical processes in her body. Instead of being overwhelmed by the synergistic toxins, her metabolism coordinated multiple detoxification pathways simultaneously. Her body treated the deadly combination as simply another survival challenge to overcome. "It's like her entire digestive system is designed for crisis situations," Taekwon observed. "Most species optimize for efficiency during normal conditions. Humans seem to optimize for survival during impossible conditions." "That's exactly right," Hyun confirmed. "Normal human digestion is actually inefficient compared to other species. We waste energy and require more food for basic functions. But during crisis situations, we can extract nutrition from sources that would kill others. The implications became clear as the day progressed. Humans weren't just capable of surviving the Great Extinction. They were specifically evolved to thrive during such catastrophic events. While other species starved because their food sources disappeared, humans could find nutrition in the organic debris of dying worlds. This explains why humans survived across multiple worlds, Sola Choi said, joining the discussion via communication link from her research station. We weren't just lucky survivors, we were biological specialists designed for catastrophic survival. But there's something else, Deho added, reviewing the complete data set. These abilities aren't just individual. The genetic markers suggest they were developed through group cooperation. Early humans shared knowledge about food processing, toxin neutralization, and resource identification. Social cooperation plus biological adaptation, Gina summarized. While advanced civilizations collapsed because their complex systems failed, humans survived because they could eat anything and they taught each other how to do it safely. As the testing concluded, Bora showed no ill effects from consuming materials that would have hospitalized most galactic species. Her body had processed everything efficiently and was already returning to normal metabolic functions. "How do you feel?" Daiho asked. "Fine," Bora replied. "A little full, but fine. My grandmother always said humans could live on anything if they had to. I guess she was more right than she knew." The test results would change everything. Humans weren't just another species that had achieved space travel. They were the ultimate survivors, shaped by galactic catastrophe into something unprecedented. The question now was how the galaxy would react to this knowledge. The galactic archives on Centauri Prime stretched beneath the surface of the planet like a vast underground city. Professor Hannah Lim walked through corridors lined with data storage units that contained the collected knowledge of dozens of civilizations spanning millions of years. Beside her, Junho An carried the special access codes that would unlock the most sensitive historical records in the galaxy. "Are you sure about this?" Junho asked as they approached the restricted section. The young research partner had been working with Hana for 3 years, but he had never seen her look so determined. "These files are classified at the highest levels. Some of them haven't been accessed in thousands of years. After what the archaeological team discovered, we need to know the truth," Hana replied. "The official histories don't match the evidence. If humans were present during the Great Extinction, then everything we know about galactic history is incomplete." The archive guardian, an ancient Zephyrian named Kethmore, greeted them at the entrance to the restricted section. His translator device was old but functional, rendering his musical language into standard galactic common. "Professor Lim, your request is most unusual. These records were sealed because they contain information that could destabilize current galactic relationships. Are you certain you wish to access them?" "We're certain," Hana said firmly. "We have authorization from the Human Scientific Council and supporting documentation from the Zephyrian Research Institute." Kethmore examined their credentials carefully before activating the security systems. "Very well, but I must warn you, the information in these files may be disturbing. There are reasons why some historical truths are kept hidden." The restricted archive room was smaller than Hana had expected, containing only a few dozen data storage units. But these units held the most sensitive information in galactic civilization, records that had been deemed too dangerous for general access. "Let's start with the official records of the Great Extinction," Hana said, activating the main display system. "I want to see everything, not just the sanitized versions that are taught in schools." The holographic displays came to life, showing star maps and historical data from 4.8 million years ago. What they revealed was far worse than the public history suggested. The Great Extinction hadn't been a single catastrophic event. It had been a cascading series of disasters that lasted for nearly 1,000 years. "Look at this," Junho said, highlighting specific data streams. "Climate collapse, resource depletion, ecosystem failure, social breakdown. This wasn't just bad luck. This was systematic collapse across hundreds of worlds. And here's what's interesting, Hannah added, pulling up population records. The advanced civilizations didn't just lose some members. They lost everyone. Complete extinction on world after world. They worked through the data methodically, building a picture of the galaxy during its darkest period. Advanced civilizations with millions of years of development had simply vanished. Their cities stood empty, their technologies abandoned, their entire species gone. But look at this anomaly, Junho said, pointing to scattered reports from various worlds. There are consistent references to scavenger populations that survived the collapse, small groups that lived in the ruins and somehow found ways to survive. Hannah felt her pulse quicken. Show me those reports. The scavenger population records were fragmentary and often dismissive. They described primitive groups that lived among the ruins of advanced civilizations, groups that seemed to thrive in conditions that had killed off spacefaring cultures. Listen to this description, Junho read from one of the reports. These creatures consume organic waste that civilized species cannot process. They show remarkable adaptability to changing conditions and reproduce rapidly during resource scarcity periods. They're describing humans, Hannah said quietly, but they didn't know that's what they were describing. They continued searching through the archives, finding more references to these mysterious survivors. The descriptions were consistent across different worlds and different time periods. Small groups of bipedal creatures that could survive anywhere, eat anything, and adapt to any conditions. Here's something that will interest you, said Kyung-oh, joining them via communication link. The military historian had been researching similar records from his location on Earth. I've found evidence that some of these scavenger populations didn't just survive. They eventually rebuilt. Kyung transmitted his findings to the archive display system. I've been tracking archaeological evidence across 17 different worlds. Worlds that showed complete civilizational collapse during the Great Extinction, but then showed signs of new development thousands of years later. The evidence was compelling. Worlds that had been declared dead during the Great Extinction showed gradual recovery over thousands of years. Simple tools appeared first, then more complex technologies, then eventually signs of organized civilization. But here's the remarkable part, Kyung continued. The rebuild patterns are identical across multiple worlds. The same progression from primitive survival to advanced civilization. The same technological development paths. The same social organization structures. You're saying humans didn't just survive the Great Extinction? Hannah said. You're saying they rebuilt civilization multiple times on different worlds. That's exactly what I'm saying, and I have proof. Kyung's data showed genetic analysis from archaeological sites across the galaxy. The same human genetic markers appeared in the scavenger populations, in the rebuilding phases, and in the eventual advanced civilizations that emerged from the ruins. Humans didn't just happen to survive, Junho said, understanding flooding through him. They were the ones who rebuilt everything? It gets better, Kyung added. I've found evidence that some of these human rebuilt civilizations eventually achieved space travel again. They reconnected with other worlds, shared technologies, and began trading across stellar distances. Hannah stared at the evidence surrounding them. You're describing multiple human civilizations that rose and fell over millions of years, civilizations that existed long before what we consider the beginning of human history. And here's the part that's going to shock you, Kyung said. Some of the elder species in the current galaxy show genetic markers suggesting they are descendants of these ancient human rebuilt civilizations. The implication hit them like a physical force. The current galactic civilization wasn't built by the elder species who claimed ancient heritage. It was built by humans who had survived the Great Extinction and rebuilt society from scratch, over and over again. The Zephyrians, the Corathans, all the so-called elder species, Junho said slowly. They're not ancient civilizations. They're the descendants of human survivors who eventually developed their own distinct cultures. That's why the legends exist, Hana realized. They're not myths about monsters. They're cultural memories of their own origins, distorted over millions of years, but based on real history. Kethmore, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke through his translator. You have discovered something that we have known but never discussed, the truth that underlies all galactic civilization. You knew? Hana asked. The eldest of my people remember the true histories. We are all children of the persistence plague, as we called them in the old languages. We survived because they taught us how to survive. We achieved civilization because they showed us how to rebuild from nothing. Why keep it secret? Junho demanded. Because the truth is humbling, Kethmore replied. Every species in the galaxy owes its existence to human survivors. Every civilization is built on foundations laid by primitive humans who refused to die when everything else did. As they compiled the evidence, the full scope of human impact on galactic history became clear. Humans hadn't just survived the Great Extinction. They had been the seeds from which all current galactic civilization had grown. Every world, every species, every culture could trace its survival back to human ancestors who had eaten anything, adapted to everything, and taught others how to survive the impossible. We need to tell people, Hana said. Are you prepared for the consequences? Kethmore asked. This information will change how every species sees itself and its place in the galaxy. Hana looked at the evidence surrounding them, the proof that humanity wasn't a young species lucky enough to achieve space travel. They were the foundation species, the ultimate survivors who had rebuilt galactic civilization from the ashes of extinction. The truth needs to be known, she said firmly, whatever the consequences. The question now was how the galaxy would react when it learned that every civilization owed its existence to the species they had considered newcomers. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never been so tense. Representatives from 47 different species sat in their designated sections, their various forms of communication creating a background hum of translated languages. At the center podium, Ambassador Isol Park stood calmly despite the weight of every alien gaze focused on her. 3 weeks had passed since the historical revelations had been made public. 3 weeks of shock, denial, anger, and fear rippling through galactic civilization. The truth about humanity's role in galactic history had shattered fundamental beliefs about species development and galactic heritage. The evidence is undeniable, Isol said, her voice carrying clearly through the vast chamber. Humans did not recently achieve space travel. We are not newcomers to galactic civilization. We are the foundation upon which all current galactic civilization was built. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. The Karathan delegation's four-armed gestures of distress were unmistakable. The Zephyrian representatives' emotional emanations filled the chamber with waves of confusion and fear. Dozens of other species added their own expressions of disbelief and concern. This changes nothing about our current relationships, Isol continued, raising her voice above the commotion. We are not here to claim superiority or demand special treatment. We are here to discuss how this knowledge can benefit all species. Commander Yuki Jiang watched from the security section, her hand resting casually near her sidearm. The human security team had been doubled for this session, not because they expected violence, but because fear made even peaceful species unpredictable. Several alien delegations had already called for restrictions on human travel and settlement rights. You ask us to accept that our entire understanding of galactic history is wrong, declared Speaker Vorthak of the Karathan Alliance. His translator rendered his clicking speech into standard galactic common. You claim that our proud civilizations are merely the offspring of primitive scavengers. Not scavengers, Dr. Nari Kang corrected from her position at the scientific advisory panel. Survivors. Humans who refuse to give up when faced with impossible odds. Humans who learn to find life where others saw only death. Nari activated the main display system, showing the biological and archaeological evidence they had gathered. The crisis metabolism that allowed early humans to survive the Great Extinction is still present in modern humans. We can demonstrate this capability under controlled conditions. And what does that mean for the rest of us? Asked Delegate Saren Hai of the Aquatic Collective. Her water-filled breathing apparatus bubbled as she spoke. If humans can survive conditions that kill other species, what happens when resources become scarce again? The question hung in the air like a physical presence. It was the fear that every species representative was thinking, but few had been willing to voice. If humans were specifically evolved to thrive during catastrophic conditions, what would happen during the next crisis? It means we can help, Isil replied simply. The same abilities that allowed our ancestors to survive extinction events can help all species survive future challenges. Help us how? Demanded Representative Claxon of the Silicon-based collective. By outliving us when conditions become difficult? By teaching you what we learned, Nari said. Human survival techniques aren't just about eating anything organic. They're about cooperation, resource sharing, and adaptive problem-solving under extreme stress. She changed the display to show examples of human survival techniques being adapted for other species. We've already begun working with Zephyrian biologists to develop supplement programs that enhance their natural resilience. We're cooperating with Korathan engineers to design resource extraction systems that can function during environmental disasters. The chamber grew quieter as representatives considered this information. The fear was still present, but it was being tempered by curiosity about potential benefits. You're offering to share survival techniques that could help our species survive future catastrophes, Speaker Vorthak said slowly. What do you want in return? Partnership, Isil replied. The same cooperation that allowed humans to survive the Great Extinction. We learned that survival isn't about individual strength. It's about working together and sharing knowledge. Elder Kethmore rose from the Zephyrian delegation section. His ancient status commanded immediate attention from the assembly. I have lived for 1,200 years. I have access to the oldest records of my people. I can confirm that human claims are accurate. The chamber fell completely silent. Elder Kethmore was one of the most respected figures in galactic civilization. His word carried enormous weight. Our oldest legends speak of the persistence plague as creatures to be feared, he continued. But I have studied the complete records. They were not monsters. They were teachers. They showed our ancestors how to find food in barren places, how to process materials that seemed inedible, how to survive when all hope seemed lost. And they did this freely? Asked Delegate Saren Hai. According to our records, yes. The primitive humans shared their knowledge with any survivors they encountered. They taught other species how to adapt their techniques for different biologies. They helped rebuild not just human settlements, but mixed communities where multiple species learned to survive together. The revelation shifted the mood in the chamber. Fear was being replaced by something that looked like cautious hope. If this is true, said Speaker Vorthak, then human survival abilities could benefit all species during resource crises or environmental disasters. That's exactly what we're proposing, Isil confirmed. Human colonies on hostile worlds have developed techniques for extracting nutrition from local ecosystems that other species considered barren. We can share these techniques. Dr. Nari Kang activated new displays showing successful human settlements on worlds that other species had declared uninhabitable. These colonies aren't just surviving, they're thriving, and they're doing it using techniques that can be adapted for other species. What about worlds where our species have failed to establish colonies? Asked Representative Claxon. Could human techniques make those worlds habitable? In many cases, yes, Nari replied. But more importantly, we can establish joint colonies where humans handle the survival aspects while other species contribute their specialized knowledge and technologies. The discussion continued for hours as representatives grappled with the implications. The initial fear and anger were gradually being replaced by recognition of potential benefits. Humans weren't offering to dominate other species. They were offering to share the survival knowledge that had allowed them to rebuild galactic civilization multiple times. There is another consideration, Elder Kethmore said during a break in the discussions. The galaxy is not stable. Climate changes, resource depletion, and ecosystem failures are occurring on multiple worlds. The conditions that caused the Great Extinction could return. The chamber grew very quiet. Everyone knew about the environmental challenges facing various worlds, but hearing them described as potential extinction events was sobering. If such conditions do return, Kethmore continued, having human survival knowledge available to all species could mean the difference between civilization continuing or ending entirely. You're suggesting that human abilities aren't just interesting historical curiosities, said Delegate Serenhai. You're suggesting they could be essential for future survival. That is exactly what I am suggesting, Kethmore replied. The persistence plague earned that name because they persisted when everything else failed. If we face such challenges again, we will need that persistence. As the session drew to a close, Ambassador Isol made one final statement. We are not asking for special status or privileges. We are offering partnership based on our unique abilities. Humans survived the Great Extinction not by being superior to other species, but by learning to work with whatever and whoever was available. And if we accept this partnership, asked Speaker Vorthak, then we all have a better chance of surviving whatever challenges the galaxy might face, Isol replied. Together. The vote, when it came, was closer than many had expected. Fear of human capabilities was balanced against recognition of potential benefits. In the end, the decision was made to establish joint research programs and cooperative colonies. The galaxy had learned that humans weren't newcomers or competitors. They were the species that had kept civilization alive through its darkest period, and they were offering to do it again, not as conquerors, but as partners. The question now was whether this partnership could prepare galactic civilization for whatever challenges might come next. 5 years had passed since the Great Assembly vote, and the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Gina Rowe stood on the observation deck of the UGS Resilience, watching as the first mixed-species colony ship approached the hostile world of Kepler 438c. Below them, a planet that 3 different species had declared uninhabitable was about to become home to the most ambitious cooperative settlement in galactic history. Status report, Gina requested from her communication officer. All species delegations are ready for deployment, came the reply. Human survival specialists, Zephyrian atmospheric engineers, Corathan mineral extraction teams, and aquatic collective water management experts are all standing by. Through the viewport, Gina could see the scarred surface of Kepler 438c. Volcanic activity had left the atmosphere toxic to most species. The plant life was sparse and largely inedible by galactic standards. Water was contaminated with minerals that would poison conventional filtration systems. It was exactly the kind of world that humans had learned to call home during the Great Extinction. Begin deployment sequence, Gina ordered. Let's show the galaxy what cooperation can accomplish. Meanwhile, on New Geneva Station, Professor Wu-Ju Lee was conducting the morning briefing for the Human Survival Institute. The classroom was filled with representatives from 17 different species, all eager to learn techniques that could help their people survive in hostile environments. Today, we'll be practicing emergency food identification, Wu-Ju announced to his diverse class. Remember, what looks like waste to your species might be nutrition to another species. The key is learning to recognize potential food sources that your traditional biology might overlook. A young Zephyrian student named Velnus raised one of her 4 arms. Professor Lee, my people's digestive systems cannot process the cellulose compounds that humans can handle. How can we adapt these techniques? Excellent question, Wuju replied. We don't expect other species to eat exactly what humans eat. Instead, we teach you to recognize signs of nutritional potential and then adapt those resources for your specific biology. He activated the classroom's demonstration system, showing various organic materials that appeared worthless but contained extractable nutrients. For Zephyrians, we've developed enzyme supplements that allow you to break down cellulose into simpler compounds your systems can process. For Corythons, we've created mineral extraction techniques that concentrate trace nutrients from apparently barren soils. The class watched with fascination as Wuju demonstrated how apparently inedible materials could be processed into nutrition for different species. It was the same principle that had allowed humans to survive the Great Extinction, adapted for modern galactic civilization. The important thing to remember, Wuju continued, is that survival isn't about individual strength. It's about working together and sharing knowledge. Humans survived because we taught each other and learned from each other. On the bridge of the colony ship, Dr. Sunho Park monitored the deployment of the mixed-species settlement teams. As Minho Park's son, he had grown up hearing stories about the archaeological discoveries that had changed galactic history. Now he was leading the first expedition to put those discoveries to practical use. Human teams report successful establishment of base camp, came the report from the surface. Initial food processing stations are operational and producing nutrition from local plant matter. Corython teams have identified mineral deposits suitable for supplement production, added another voice. Initial extraction is underway. Zephyrian atmospheric processors are showing positive results, reported a third team. Air quality in the settlement zone is approaching acceptable levels for all species. Sunho smiled as he watched the real-time displays showing the colony taking shape. Different species working together, each contributing their unique abilities while learning from the others. It was exactly what the ancient humans had done during the Great Extinction, but on a much larger scale. Admiral Rowe, he said into his communication device, initial colony establishment is proceeding ahead of schedule. All species teams are reporting successful adaptation of human survival techniques for their specific needs. From orbit, Admiral Gina Rowe watched with satisfaction as the impossible colony became reality. Excellent work, Dr. Park. How are the other expeditions progressing? Sunho pulled up status reports from 12 other joint colonial efforts currently underway across the galaxy. All colonies are showing positive results. The combination of human survival techniques and alien specialist knowledge is proving highly effective. And the resource scarcity situations? Even better news there. The joint response teams have successfully managed crisis situations on 4 different worlds. Instead of mass evacuations or humanitarian disasters, we've been able to establish sustainable survival communities that maintain civilized standards of living. This was the real victory. Not just that humans could survive impossible conditions, but that they could teach other species to do the same. The galaxy was becoming more resilient, better prepared for environmental challenges and resource crises. Back on the surface of Kepler 438c, the mixed species colony was already showing signs of thriving. Human specialists worked alongside alien experts to process local materials into nutrition, clean water, and building materials. What had seemed like a barren wasteland was becoming a functioning settlement. This is remarkable, said Zilthara, the Corython colony coordinator. Her 4 arms gestured enthusiastically as she watched human colonists teaching alien children how to identify edible plants. My people have tried to settle worlds like this for thousands of years. We never succeeded because we couldn't see the potential that humans recognize naturally. And we never could have built atmospheric processors or mineral extraction systems like yours, replied Sarah Kim, the human settlement coordinator. The combination of our abilities creates possibilities that neither of our species could achieve alone. As the years passed, the new paradigm spread throughout the galaxy. Worlds that had been written off as uninhabitable became thriving mixed-species communities. Resource crises that would have caused mass starvation became opportunities for innovative cooperation. Environmental disasters that would have ended civilizations became challenges that brought species closer together. On Earth, in a small ceremony attended by representatives from across the galaxy, Elder Minji Seo celebrated her 200th birthday. The advances in human longevity treatments, combined with medical knowledge shared by other species, had extended human lifespans far beyond their natural limits. "When I was young," Minji said to the gathering of human and alien friends, "we thought survival meant competing with others for limited resources. We learned that real survival means working together to create resources where none seem to exist." Around her, human children and alien children played together, practicing the survival techniques that were now taught in schools across the galaxy. They learned to identify nutritional potential in organic waste, to process dangerous materials into safe resources, and most importantly, to share their knowledge freely with anyone who needed it. "Look at them," Minji continued, gesturing to the children. "They don't see differences between species. They see potential partners in the great work of survival and cooperation." A young Zephyrian child approached Minji with a handful of processed plant matter. "Elder Minji, I learned to make this from the dead leaves behind the school. It tastes good, and my nutrition scanner says it's healthy." Minji smiled and accepted the offering, tasting it carefully. "Very good. Did you share the technique with your classmates?" "Yes, Elder. And Crixtel showed me how to use mineral supplements to make it even more nutritious for Korath and digestive systems." This was humanity's true legacy. Not just the ability to survive impossible conditions, but the wisdom to share that ability with others. The same cooperative spirit that had allowed primitive humans to survive the Great Extinction now ensured that no species would face such challenges alone. As the ceremony concluded and the mixed gathering of humans and aliens celebrated together, Minji reflected on how far they had all come. The galaxy that had once feared humans as the persistence plague now welcomed them as essential partners in the ongoing work of survival and growth. The Great Extinction had ended millions of years ago, but its lessons lived on in every thriving colony, every successful resource extraction, every shared meal prepared from materials that had once seemed worthless. Humanity had survived the galaxy's greatest catastrophe not by being superior to other species, but by learning to work with whatever and whoever was available. Now they were teaching that same lesson to the entire galaxy. And the galaxy was listening. The future was uncertain, as futures always are. But whatever challenges might come, they would be faced together, with the combined wisdom of species that had learned to see opportunity where others saw only disaster. The age of cooperation had begun, built on the foundation of humanity's ultimate gift to the galaxy, the knowledge that anything is possible if you're willing to work together and never give up.